The club pulsed in slow beats, each rhythm echoing through my bones. I moved like I always did, barefoot, deliberate, letting the music pull threads from within me. It wasn't about performance anymore, not tonight, not with her watching. She sat alone near the back. No friends, no phone. Just a drink untouched, and those eyes, those dark, anchored eyes that didn't flinch when I spun, didn't look away when I sank to my knees. Most came for escape. She came for something else, maybe for me. I didn't catch her name that night, didn't need to. Her stare followed me off stage, all the way through the curtain and into my bloodstream. When I got home, the silence felt thicker than usual. I lit a candle. Lavender, my usual. But the air felt different, like I wasn't alone. That night, I dreamt of hands tracing my back, a presence curling against my spine. Not lust, something gentler. Loneliness recognizing loneliness. The next day, I found her again, outside the corner deli, leaning against a rusted bike rack. Hoodie up, wind-catching curls she didn't bother to tame. "You dropped this," she said, holding out a silver ring. "It wasn't mine, but I took it. Name?" "Ray," she said. I nodded. "Lena." We walked. No destination, no point really, just two strangers weaving through side streets like they'd always been part of each other's maps. Back at mine, we shared half-warm noodles and silence that didn't need filling. When her thigh touched mine, I didn't pull away. When she laughed at nothing, I did too. At some point, I played music, something quiet and half familiar. She tilted her head when I offered my hand. "Dance with me?" She hesitated for only a second, then stood, and our bodies found rhythm without instruction. Her hand found my waist, mine cupped the side of her face. Her lips hovered like a question. The answer was yes. When we kissed, it wasn't about fireworks. It was about breath, about safety, about being real in a world built on masks. That night, she stayed. We didn't rush. We didn't pretend we weren't scared. We simply let the silence speak, and it told us, this matters. Ray didn't leave after that night. Not really. Some evenings, she arrived with cold coffee and wildflowers stuffed into her jacket pocket. Other times, just her presence, bare feet on my kitchen tiles, her laugh echoing in the corners of rooms I didn't know could hold joy. We never labeled it. We didn't need to. It felt like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. She started sleeping over, once, then again, then enough times that my sheets carried her scent more than they carried mine. In the quiet of morning, she'd read old paperbacks on the floor while I scribbled song lyrics on the back of grocery receipts. One day, she brought a notebook, worn edges nearly bursting with ink and emotion. She didn't say anything as she handed it over. "I wrote these before you," she whispered, "but somehow they're all about you." Her poems bled vulnerability, soft anger, hidden ache, small hopes. I read each word like it was stitched to my skin. I told her they deserved the world. She laughed, eyes half closed. "The world doesn't read girls like me." "Well," I said, "then I'll read you twice." Still, not every moment shimmered. Some nights I saw shadows in her gaze, like she was somewhere else entirely. I didn't press. But silence has weight, and hers was starting to crush the air between us. One evening, I came home late and found her curled up on the couch. She looked at me, eyes rimmed red. "She called," Ray said, voice barely there. "My mom." I sat down slowly. "What did she say?" "That I'm broken, that maybe if I stopped seeing you, I'd remember who I'm supposed to be." My stomach sank. I reached out, brushing my fingers down her arm. "And what do you believe?" She swallowed hard. "I want to believe I'm not wrong for loving like this, like you." "You're not wrong," I said, firmer than I meant. "You're real." She leaned into me. We stayed there a long time. Her cheek pressed to my shoulder, my arms around her like a vow I hadn't yet spoken aloud. That night, when we made love, it wasn't passion that led us. It was defiance. It was choosing softness in a world that had punished her for craving it. And as she drifted off, tangled in my sheets and trust, I knew something with aching certainty. This wasn't just a chapter. It was a beginning I didn't know I'd been waiting for. Ray left on a Thursday morning, wrapped in layers of silence she didn't try to explain. She kissed my cheek like a question, whispered something about needing time, and slipped through the door with a small suitcase and a storm in her eyes. I didn't stop her. I couldn't, but her absence felt like a door left ajar in my chest. The days after blurred into routines, coffee gone cold, unread books, music that didn't move me anymore. The couch held her shape for a while, the bed, her scent. But the apartment had never felt so empty. I told myself not to wait. She'd asked for space, not promises. But every time the wind knocked against the windows, I swore it was her hand. One rainy evening, just as I reached for the kettle, there was a knock, soft, tentative, like hope unsure of itself. And there she was, hair damp, arms crossed, lips trembling. "I came back," she said, "because everywhere else felt like silence, and you were the only place that sounded like home." I didn't ask her where she'd been. I just pulled her in and held her until the world outside stopped mattering. We didn't try to rebuild what we had. Instead, we planted something new, slowly, quietly. We learned to move together again, not as halves, but as two whole people with soft edges and still healing parts. Some nights we cooked and forgot the salt. Other nights we fought and found the courage to say sorry. Ray showed me the poems she wrote while she was gone, full of bruised truths and gentle anger. I read them like scripture. She told me she was scared, that loving me felt like standing on a cliff, unsure whether she'd fall or fly. I told her love wasn't about safety, it was about standing on that edge, together. 1 year after that first dance, I performed on a quiet stage. No neon lights, no crowd of strangers. Just her, sitting in the front row, eyes gleaming. Every movement I made, every pause and spin, was for her. And when the final note faded, she didn't clap. She just stood, tears bright, and whispered, "You danced like you remembered me." I smiled. I never forgot. Later that night, as we lay in our shared bed, limbs tangled like ivy, I asked her, "Do you think this could last?" Ray pressed her forehead to mine and breathed, "We already did." And in that stillness, I knew love wasn't a destination. It was a rhythm, one we never stopped hearing, even when the music paused. Some mornings, Ray would leave coffee by my bedside, 2 sugars, 1 cream, before curling back into my arms like gravity itself pulled her there. We didn't say forever. We just lived it, one soft sunrise at a time. We had learned how to be still with each other. No masks, no armor, just skin and silence. There was no more pretending to be okay all the time. Not here. One night, we were tangled in our usual mess of pillows and flannel when she asked, voice barely a whisper, "Do you think we're strong enough for the hard parts?" I kissed her shoulder and said, "The fact that we asked the question means we are." Still, some nights cracked. One evening, Ray came home late, soaked from the rain, mascara smudged like charcoal beneath her eyes. She dropped her bag at the door and stood there, breathing like she'd just surfaced from deep water. "My mom called," she said. "She found out about us." I didn't need the details. Her trembling told me enough. She said I'm confused, broken, wrong. "No," I whispered, walking to her. "She's wrong." Ray leaned into my chest, fists curled in my shirt. "It still hurts." "Why does it still hurt?" I didn't answer. I just held her until her shoulders stopped shaking. That night, I danced for her again. Not on a stage, not for anyone else. Just us. The apartment dim, music low, the same rhythm we'd always known. She watched from the couch, knees tucked to her chest, like a girl afraid of shattering. Every step I took, every spin, was a prayer, a promise that she mattered, that this was real. When I stopped, she didn't speak. She just walked to me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and whispered, "You make me feel safe in a world that never has." I rested my chin on her head and breathed her in. "I want to keep choosing you," she said, "even when it's hard, even when I'm scared." "You don't have to be fearless," I said. "You just have to stay." We kissed then, not desperate, not shy, but steady, like an anchor being dropped after a long voyage. Later that night, she rested her hand over my heart and whispered, "This feels like home." And I realized in that moment, home wasn't a place. It was her, every breath, every bruise, every quiet act of staying. It had been 2 months since Ray handed me that silver ring, pretending I'd dropped it. 2 months since a stranger with stormy eyes walked into my life and refused to leave quietly. We didn't count anniversaries. We counted coffee mugs left out, books traded, playlists shared. But that morning, I noticed the date circled faintly on the calendar. Her doing, no doubt. She caught me smiling at it. "What's funny?" she asked, barefoot in my shirt, a spoonful of peanut butter in hand. "It's the anniversary," I said. "Of what?" "The night you tricked me into talking to you," she grinned. "Worked, didn't it?" That evening, we walked through the neighborhood like we always did. No destination, just movement. Her hand in mine felt like a familiar song. Leaves crunched beneath our feet, and the wind carried the smell of cinnamon and change. When we passed the park, Ray tugged my hand toward the swings. "Race you," she said, already running. I laughed and followed. For a moment, we were just kids again, reckless and breathless, laughing too hard. Then she stood in front of me, eyes darker than usual, serious. "I'm not proposing," she said, smirking as she knelt, "but I do need to tell you something." I froze. My chest tightened. She reached into her pocket and held out the ring again. This wasn't just a trick. It was me, reaching. I didn't know how to say it back then, but now I do. I stared at her, heart in my throat. "You see me," she said. "Not the perfect parts, not the strong ones, just me. And I don't know where this is going, but I want to keep walking there with you." I knelt too, wrapping my fingers around hers. "You've already given me more than a ring. You gave me a reason to stay." We didn't kiss right away. We just sat there, forehead to forehead, letting the moment bloom. Later, tangled in blankets back home, I asked her, "What do you think this is?" She didn't hesitate. "Real. Maybe even love. Definitely the beginning." I smiled into her neck. "I was hoping you'd say that." And when we finally kissed, it wasn't fireworks or fanfare. It was soft, steady, like the ocean brushing the shore, again and again. She didn't need to promise me forever. That night, she promised me tomorrow, and that was enough. By the time Ray left her toothbrush in my bathroom, it wasn't a conversation. It was a quiet agreement. Our lives had already begun to stitch together, one forgotten sock and shared grocery list at a time. She moved through my space like she'd always belonged there. Her poetry books sat beside my half-used cookbooks. Her laugh echoed down the hallway like it knew the walls. And when she made coffee, it was always in my favorite mug. We didn't say she moved in, but our routines did. Most nights were soft, shared dinners on the floor, music playing from my old speaker, her legs tangled with mine under the table. Sometimes she'd sketch me without asking, her pencil moving in soft strokes across the page while I read or stared into nothing. But softness, as I've learned, is dangerous when you've built yourself out of armor. One Friday afternoon, I came home early, carrying her favorite tea and a warm pastry in a paper bag. I thought I'd find her curled on the couch. Instead, she stood by the window, shoulders trembling. I froze, then stepped in gently. "Ray?" She didn't hear me at first. When she finally turned, her eyes were glossy, her hands clenched. "My mom called," she said, voice brittle. That alone didn't explain the tears. "She knows," Ray continued. "About me. About us." My breath caught. I waited. She said I was broken, an embarrassment, that I should fix it before it's too late. I walked toward her. Do you believe her? She shook her head. No, but some part of me still aches to hear it, like I'm 15 again, just begging to be enough. I placed both hands on her face, guiding her to look at me. You are more than enough, and you don't need anyone's permission to be loved. Her tears came again, softer this time. She whispered, You love me? I do. And with those two words, the heaviness in the room lifted just enough for her to fall into my arms. We held each other like the world had gone quiet. Later that night, we lay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, the lamp casting gold across her cheeks. Her head rested on my shoulder, her fingers tracing circles on my wrist. I don't want to hide anymore, she whispered. You don't have to, I said. Not here, not with me. And for the first time, I saw it in her eyes. Not fear, but peace. Into bedroom, late night. The room was dark, but not empty. The kind of quiet that settles when two people stop pretending to be strong. Lena sits up in bed, watching the moonlight stretch across the hardwood floor. She glances at the spot beside her, still warm. The door creaks. Ray enters, slow steps and tired eyes, holding her shoes in one hand, a small bouquet of crushed wildflowers in the other. Ray, softly. You're still up? Lena. I couldn't sleep. The silence was too loud. Ray walks over, places the flowers on the nightstand, and sits beside her. She looks at her hands like they're strangers. Ray, I didn't mean to stay out so long. I just needed air. Lena, I wasn't angry, just scared of the silence, of you not coming back through that door. Ray meets her gaze, tears pooling but not falling. Ray, my thoughts were spiraling. That voice in my head, my mother's voice maybe, kept saying I wasn't enough, that one day you'd see it too. Lena turns to her, firm. I've already seen all of you, and I stayed. Every version of you, the raw, the messy, the quiet. I'm not waiting for perfect. I'm holding on to real. Ray leans into her, their foreheads touching. Ray, then tell me it's okay to break sometimes. Lena, it's more than okay. You don't have to carry the world alone. They sit in silence. Then Lena reaches behind her, pulls out a small Polaroid photo. It's them, blurry but laughing on the floor beside a spilled coffee mug. Lena, we don't have to be a grand story. We can just be this, 100 little moments stitched together, a quiet promise to keep showing up. Ray takes the photo, studies it like it holds an answer. Ray, you know what scares me the most? Lena, what? Ray, that this might be real and I might ruin it. Lena pulls her into a tight embrace. Lena, then we'll ruin it together and build it again as many times as it takes. They lie down, fingers laced. The wildflowers fall to the floor, forgotten but beautiful. Fade out. Into small apartment. Early evening. The glow from a single lamp paints everything in amber. Books are scattered across the floor. The hum of soft indie music hangs in the air. Lena and Ray are curled on opposite ends of the couch, legs intertwined, a shared blanket draped over them. A steaming mug rests between them, untouched. Ray, quietly, tracing the rim of the mug. Do you ever wonder how long something like this lasts? Lena, this? Ray, yeah. The soft, the safe. Lena shifts closer, brushing a curl from Ray's forehead. Lena, I used to. Now, I try to stop asking that question because the answer doesn't matter if we're here. Now. Ray exhales, leaning into her touch. Ray, I keep waiting for it to vanish, for you to realize I'm just temporary. Lena, you think love is about permanence? Ray shrugs but says nothing. Lena stands, grabs something from the bookshelf, a wrinkled receipt. She sits back down and hands it to Ray. Lena, this was from our first grocery run. You picked the tea, I picked the wrong kind of pasta. We laughed in aisle 6. Ray, you kept this. Lena, I kept everything, not for proof, for memory, for the way it made me feel. Ray runs her thumb over the faded ink. Ray, sometimes I think you're magic. Lena, sometimes I think we both are, because somehow we found each other in a world designed to make people miss. Ray gently presses her forehead to Lena's chest. Ray, I had this dream last night. You were dancing barefoot in our kitchen. I watched from the doorway. You didn't know I was there. Lena, was I good? Ray, you were light. You were joy. I wanted to hold it forever. Beat. Lena. Then let's build something that lasts. Not because we're unbreakable, but because we're willing to rebuild every time. Ray lifts her head. They kiss. Slow. Certain. A gust of wind rattles the window. Somewhere, a kettle whistles. They stay in the moment. Together. Still choosing. Always choosing. Fade out. Interior. Bedroom. Night. The rain taps gently on the window pane. Lena sits on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, her phone dimly lit in her hand. The screen shows no new messages. Just silence. She exhales slowly, blinking back the tightness behind her eyes. The door clicks. Lena looks up sharply. Ray steps in, soaked from the rain, a paper bag clutched in her hands. Her hair is plastered to her cheeks. She looks unsure, like someone trying to read the temperature of a forgotten home. Ray, softly. I didn't mean to stay away this long. Lena doesn't respond immediately. She studies her. Not angry, just weary. Lena, you didn't answer. I didn't know if you were coming back. Ray sets the bag down on the floor. It topples. A cinnamon bun spills out. Ray, I went to that cafe you love. I thought if I brought it home, maybe it would say what I couldn't. Beat. Ray. My mum said some things, old things, things that used to hurt like knives, but this time they didn't bleed the same. She steps closer, carefully. Ray. Because I kept thinking about your hands, the way they hold me when I'm quiet, the way they never push. I kept thinking maybe that's what love is, not the loud part, the staying. Lena's voice is barely a whisper. Lena, did you want to leave? Ray shakes her head. Ray, no, but I needed to remember I could choose to stay, and now I am, if you'll let me. Lena slowly rises from the bed, walks to Ray. She cups Ray's damp cheeks in her hands. Lena, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to come home, even when it's hard. Their foreheads touch. Ray, small. This still feels like home? Lena, every time you walk back through that door, it does. They kiss. Not out of desperation, but out of choice. A decision. The rain falls harder outside. Inside, they move in slow synchrony. No rush. No fire, just warmth. Lena picks up the cinnamon bun, breaks it in half, and hands the bigger piece to Ray. Lena, next time, just text me. I'll still worry, but I'll breathe easier. Ray nods, eyes shining. Ray, deal, fade out. Into small apartment. Night. Soft jazz plays from a dusty speaker. The air smells like vanilla and clean laundry. Lena is curled up on the couch, a blanket draped over her legs, flipping through an old photo album. The door opens slowly. Ray enters with a tiny box in hand. Her expression is unreadable, calm, but distant. Lena. Hey, you okay? Ray gives a faint smile, placing the box on the coffee table before sitting beside her. Ray, I passed by a thrift shop today. Found this thing. Reminded me of you. Lena lifts the lid. Inside, an old compass, weathered and scratched. Lena. It's beautiful, but why? Ray. Because you always help me find my way back to myself? A beat. Ray. Even when I forget who I'm trying to be. Lena reaches for her hand. Ray lets her. Lena. You don't have to be anyone else with me, just real. That's enough. Ray, softly. I used to think love was this fireworks kind of thing. Big, dramatic, loud. But you're the soft hum after the explosion. The steady. Lena leans her head on Ray's shoulder. Lena, love isn't about how loud it is. It's about who stays when the music fades. Ray chuckles under her breath. Ray, that sounds like something you'd write in a poem. Lena, maybe I will. Call it Compass Girl. They both laugh gently. Ray hesitates, then continues. Ray, do you ever wonder if we're strong enough to last? Lena looks at her, serious now. Lena every day, but wondering isn't fear. It's hope in disguise. Ray swallows. Emotion wells up but doesn't spill. Instead, she lifts Lena's hand and places it over her own heart. Ray, feel that? Lena, yeah? Ray, it beats different when I'm with you. Lena kisses her knuckles, slow and deliberate. They sit like that for a while, the compass glinting under the lamp. Later, they lie on the rug, backs to the ground, fingers entwined. Ray, promise me something? Lena, anything. Ray, even if I get lost again, don't stop shining. Lena, never. I'll be your lighthouse. Their eyes meet, and in that moment there is no past to outrun, no future to fear.